Alrighty then, I think we're ready to begin today's show. I'm Jill Matteson, a sound healer, and you can hear about my work at jillswingsoflight.com. I have all kinds of free videos, free articles, and a half-hour free sound healing music on the home page. And right now, a very quick special. In exchange for a review on Amazon, I'm giving away a copy of my book, Ancient Sounds. It's just for a limited time, so help yourself. This is Doves for Peace Radio, and they are a great blessing and joy to the world. We start off with a prayer for peace. Today, I thought we would talk about some scientific studies on prayer and then link it to sound, because we're doing sound healing and healing ourselves with sound, miracles with sound. The book I read was quite a while ago, but I think it was Bill Sweet. Anyway, it was an institute in the United States that had spent years doing scientific studies on plants, like 10,000 studies, a lot. They started out by simply having plants as the subject and people praying for plants. They discovered that, compared to a control group, that if people prayed for plants, their growth was better, as well as their resilience to drought and disease. So they were pretty happy with that, a confirmation of prayer. But then they wanted more. They wanted to learn more. They tested to see if prayer worked long distance. So they separated the prayers from the plants. And they found once again that the plants that were prayed for had much better growth and resilience to drought and disease than those plants that nobody prayed for. So they shifted it up yet once again, trying to find out more about just how does prayer work. This time, they lied to the people who were praying. They had two groups of plants, and they overwatered them. They were on the verge of dying because their roots were rotting. They were just soaking in water. Then they went to the prayers who were praying long distance, and they said, "Oh, these plants need you. They have no water. They're about ready to die because they need water," when in truth they were dying from too much water. Anyway, the plants that were in the control group, for the most part, survived the onslaught of too much water. The plants that were prayed for didn't make it. And that, to me, is really significant. It says that our prayer works, and it doesn't have a greater consciousness than what our prayer is. It is. Our prayer is simply what it is. It reminds me of a personal story. My mother-in-law, I saw her have a big dark cloud. It was etheric. I was using clairvoyant vision, and I saw this dark cloud around her belly, her midline in her stomach. Shortly thereafter, they diagnosed her with valve problems in her heart. And the whole community was praying for her. She had so much prayer. And at 72, she underwent a very risky operation, heart surgery, had all the ribs broken and her valves all replaced. And she did marvelously. The prayer worked. 2 weeks after the surgery, however, she died from kidney failure. Nobody knew there's a problem in the kidney. I guess I wasn't praying hard enough, or there needed to be a bigger crowd to overcome the damage in the kidney. So we need to be careful what we wish for, what we pray for, because we get it. And in the case of the plants, if you pray for the wrong thing with good intent, it's like the universe doesn't have an autocorrect. It doesn't give you the deeper intent. It gives you what you prayed for. Now, they did a final study, at least that I'm going to talk about, on plants. In this one, they had all kinds of life-threatening conditions for the plants. Some had drought, some had too much water, some had bugs, whatever. They also did the praying long distance. So the people doing the praying didn't know how. They couldn't get in there and try to control their prayer for a specific thing because they didn't know any better. All they knew is that the plant needed prayer. And when they prayed for the plants with all kinds of terrible situations from a plant's point of view, it worked. Somehow there was some type of intelligence that directed their prayer properly. Wow. I mean, think of that. Here we are trying to micromanage things. We want a gift for ourselves, so we pray for something. We want, I'm just making this up in an analogy, we want a 6-ounce box of chocolates. Ta-da, we pray. Someone gives us a 6-ounce box of chocolates. Meanwhile, if we had prayed for the highest and best sweets, we probably would have gotten 10 pounds of chocolate. But because we had to get in there and control things, we shorted our possible gifts. So, when we're thinking about praying, let's open up to the universe and pray for the highest and the best, and open it up for the wisdom and the love, the unconditional love of the world, to be present and to take our prayer to where it's needed most. Okay, so now that's a big preamble, and we're going to do our opening prayer for Doves for Peace. We're going to pray and give a sound to our prayer. We're going to pray for the blessing of the earth, for the blessing of the humans, of the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, the wind, the water, the earth, the air, the fairies, the divas, everything, even those that we don't know of. So we're going to open it up and have all our prayer and blessings go to the highest and best good. Next, we're going to give it a sound. And again, if you look, I have 3 or 4 other videos prior to this one, and you can learn about how sound will amplify your prayer. So we're going to go and be silent and imagine the world in love, unconditional love, and being directed to the highest and the best purpose. Then we're going to make a sound, any sound. You don't need to be a singer. You don't need to have a good voice. And if you can't make a sound because you're too embarrassed with people around, you can even think it, though that is less powerful, but it still amplifies your prayer. So we're going to have a moment of silence, and as we pray, we're going to make a sound, just a beautiful sound. And we're going to put all of our good feelings on the sound and see it coating the whole earth. Now, it's not enough to just coat the earth, because Mother Earth, Gaia, told me that herself personally. She's hurting on her skin, the surface of the earth, but she's hurting all the way through. So we're going to give a sound for the highest and best. We're going to surround the earth way out, like, I don't know, 1,000 miles out, come into the earth, and then go all the way to the core. And we're going to make a beautiful sound, any sound. Okay, here we go. Let's pray. I'm imagining the highest and best. Anything that can help and bless this earth, I pray for. Even the things that I am unaware of, especially the things that I am unaware of. I ask this go to the earth, to the water, to the air, to the wind, to the plant kingdom, to the water. I ask this to go to the humans, to the animals, every plant, to the flower kingdom, the crystal kingdom, the diva kingdom, everything and everyone, and all those I don't know about. And I'm going to see them just bathing in unconditional love. Make a sound. I see 1,000 miles out of the earth, just this beautiful pink unconditional love coming in, getting more concentrated, covering the surface and healing her skin, and going right to the very core. I feel compassion, I feel grace, love, and mercy, and so does everything else. Wow, what a beautiful, beautiful blessing. Thank you for joining me on that. Okay, this is the second in a series of videos entitled Healing with Sound, Miracles Within Your Own Voice. Not your voice, excuse me, just healing with sound. Silly me. Okay, we're going to study today about one of the most powerful techniques in ancient time to take someone and advance them on their spiritual path. And what does that mean? To the ancient man, that means that your health is better. It also means that your emotional control and intelligence is better. It means that you can control your thoughts, and your aura and your light and your energy becomes more powerful and higher, lighter, a greater blessing just simply by being you. So raising your energy quickly in that manner is no small thing. Many of these ancient people would raise their energy like that, and if their cancer went away, that was a byproduct. This is a very powerful and ancient technique. The idea is that the silence is full of sounds and that it's pregnant. It's pregnant with possibilities, and that it's soft enough. It hasn't quite been shaped into matter and solidified, so that we can go into soft, subtle energy and start to create for the highest and the best, kind of like we did in our prayer. The way they did this in ancient times was they would start to simply direct the focus of their listening inward. So instead of using their ears to hear outside, they were listening inside. Everyone can do this. No special gifts required. Think of being in 4th grade, at least I can, when I would listen to my girlfriend's gossip. I could pay attention to the slightest little tone on a soft breath of the gossip, or pay attention to the boring old teacher. Well, I was always into what my girlfriend had to say, and I could literally turn the dial down on the teacher and turn the up on my girlfriend. We've all done this. The word tune that out. We use that phrase because we have the ability to change the volume, and we increase the volume of the vibrations of what we focus on. And as we learned in other lessons, when we focus on a sound, we're in close proximity of a sound. We absorb it. It becomes us. We're not separate from our sounds. Okay, so we're going to focus on inner sounds, which means we all have the ability to open up our inner hearing. This is not clairaudience at this point. We're simply listening for the sound of our lungs breathing, of our circulation, of our nervous system, of the heartbeat, of our body sounds. When you hear your circulation, it sounds a little bit like a vacuum cleaner, like kind of like a white noise on a TV. The sounds of your nervous system, you have to be very, very intent. They're like a very high-pitched metal. It's almost like you could hear electricity. It's a high-pitched, fast, tiny, thin, piercing little sound. Zing, kind of a sound like that. So when you first start to listen to the sounds within, I at least started to notice my circulation and then my nervous system. As I kept listening, and I would listen for about 15 minutes a day, after a week or two, I went to a new phase. I would buzz right past those sounds, and sounds were created in my inner ear. So now I'm into clairaudience, and I didn't have any special gifts. No special gifts required, just attention and intent. And I started listening to these sounds within. For me, first I heard the chirps of crickets, which I like, so that was beautiful. And I listened to crickets for many months. And throughout the ensuing years as I did this, I also heard the ocean, like inside of a conch shell kind of a sound. I heard harps, flutes, bells, all kinds of things. And I would hear them for like a period of months. It was almost like when I was in a certain phase, I'd hear a certain nature sound or a certain sound in my ear. And then as I graduated and got into the next lesson, I got a new tuning note. I researched all the ancient mystery schools, so that would, well, not all, many, I guess. That would be Tibetan, ancient China, ancient Hindu, Egypt, Samaria, South America, North America, all kinds, Theosophy, Rosicrucians. Anyway, I came up with a master list of sounds that all these mystery schools told their disciples to listen for. And they said, here's the list: ocean, the sounds of bees, the sounds of bells, high ones, low ones, sounds of crickets, a brook, thunder, a roar of a lion, in listening to a conch shell, a gong, a harp, a flute, a bagpipe, and then the absence of all sound, total silence. And in addition to all these mystery schools teaching about these, I believe that the Bible does as well. Listen to this quote from Revelations. It is Revelations 14:3. And I heard the voice from heaven, like the sounds of thunder, the sounds of many waters, and the sounds of harpers playing on their harps. I believe that they are talking about listening to the little sounds within, and they are referring to, in Revelations, these little tiny sounds in your ear as the sounds of heaven. And what have we learned in past lessons? Well, we've learned that what you focus on, you get a higher dosage of sound vibration. So when you focus on these little sounds, you start to ingest bits of heaven, as the ancient man would say, raising your consciousness, your body, your mind, your soul, your feelings. Whole enchilada. Kind of cool, huh? You can do this while you're grocery shopping, in the car, doing the dishes, You can do this while you're doing other things. Just turn up that dial and start to listen. I also like to think about science and notice string theory. That theory says that at its smallest quantum roots, that the world is composed of strings. And think of like a violin where you play and you shorten the string by putting your fingers on it, so the string gets shorter and the pitch goes up. Well, these strings you could play either way. You could play this way or this way. You could come in either direction. But string theory points to many dimensions, and it points to these strings. Think of them as potential, that wherever you play them and however you play them, you can create. So in a way, that big silence is this big bed of strings, potential, rich potential, ready for manifesting. So why not get in there and think of our prayer, go for the highest and the best, and just start to listen and watch your life change. I know mine did. Okay, two things I want to go into before I wrap up sounds of silence. And then, of course, we're going to try them at the end. Okay, the second is that I'm just going to point out a practice in one of the ancient mystery schools, again, designed to put disciples on the fast track, again, the elevator to heaven, how to be more spiritually evolved, to be more like Jesus, to do miracles like Jesus. Quick. Okay. The Pythagorean mystery school. In the ancient mystery schools, they all attributed the sinking of Atlantis to the misuse of sound, at least in part. And so sound is considered a very powerful vibratory tool. Not good, not bad. Can be used for good, can be used for bad, but it really packs a punch no matter which way you use it. And so they would hide their information on how to make a person more powerful, lest someone with no morals get a hold of that information. For example, Hitler was into this kind of stuff, big time, trying very hard to get as much information to fuel his war machine. He's certainly not the first to take advantage of such techniques. So the ancient mystery schools would carefully select who they would have as an initiate or a new student. And they would look at their moral capabilities, and they also believed that higher evolved people might have an inclination for psychic abilities that they've learned in past lives. Anyway, then they would go through levels. They would be an initiate, and they would learn lessons, and they would have to pass tests. Then they would become a disciple, master, adept. Initiate, master, no, silly me. Initiate, disciple, adept, master. That's right. And in different mystery schools, they'd give them different names, but that's kind of the idea. The stuff about sound, pretty much across the board, was only given to adepts and masters, and for the most part, just with verbal translations, no writing it down, lest it get in the wrong hands. In the Pythagorean school, like the rest, they were very serious about their secrets to safeguard mankind. You had to pledge in the Pythagorean mystery school to not speak for 5 years. Whoa, wow. I can't even imagine that. I mean, I like to talk. And there was many reasons why they did that. One was to get the initiate to start to pay attention to sound, the sound internal, to listen to other sounds, such as these little sounds we're talking about in our ears. It was also, of course, to get them in the habit of keeping the school's secrets. They were very serious about that. They also did that so that they could pay attention when someone spoke to them, where sound resonated in their body, because sounds were used like a toolbox to heal different things within. And also, one thing about being silent is that you can't be thinking about what you're going to say next. You certainly learn to listen with greater depth. Not only listen to the spoken word, but listen to the energy within the word, to feel the emotions, the thoughts, the deeper intent of the speaker. So I'm just kind of pointing that little ditty out to give you the importance of silence in ancient traditions. Okay, last thing before we try this. You see, I started listening to these sounds of silence maybe 20 years ago, and I went through these different phases, and I don't know, it's been quite a while now, but maybe 5-6 years, I haven't gone through this list. I've been getting all kinds of crazy sounds, though, beautiful sounds, and sounds within sounds. So like, if I listen to the bells that happen to be going off inside, and I listen in between, like bung, bung, if you look in the silence in between the bells, then you'll hear that there's another set of bells underneath. And if you listen to the silence in between those bells, yet more bells underneath. So there's like sounds within sounds within sounds. Think of a galaxy, think of a solar system, think of a planet, think of a country, a town, a person, an arm, a cell, a nanoparticle. Think of worlds within worlds, and that's how the sounds that I've been hearing, I believe they're downloads. I believe that those people who are on the path to enlighten and bring light into the earth and become more spiritually profound, body, mind, soul, are getting these downloads. And so I, as often as I remember, which is quite often because I've been doing it for a long time now, I turn up the volume on all these little bells and beautiful little sounds that are being given to me. What is sound? It's energy. It's the, think of it as the liquid stuff that's going to form into matter when it cools. And I believe that these multitude of little sounds in the ears are downloads from heaven, just like the writer of Revelations refers to them as. Okay, now it's time to try. And this isn't going to be really much to see because I'm just going to be silent for a moment, and so are you. We're going to just be silent, and then we're going to listen. We're going to turn our attention inward. And we're just going to do this for a minute because wouldn't it be boring if we did it for like 15 minutes? But that's what you should be doing every day. A good 15 minutes of listening, exploring worlds within. Okay, we're just going to be silent. Okay, we're going to silently come out. I don't know what your experience individually was, but if you keep doing it, it will keep getting better and better. I do know that for sure. Okay, we're about ready to go on to a new topic. We're going to talk about special patterns that ancient masters used in sound, again, for fast-track evolution to make a quick, huge, powerful difference in a disciple. So, remember that in these early stories, in these early races, that the people were clairvoyant and clairaudient. So they're not using their voice to communicate. Words are just a shell of our information that we communicate anyway. Think of this. Hello. 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 Now I used the same word with 3 different messages, and you all got my message. So the word is actually a shell. They would use clairaudience and clairvoyance, and they got a much more complete, high-definition message. So what were they using sound for? They were using sound to take their body, mind, soul up, to heal the body, to rehabilitate a criminal, to grow crops faster and get better yield. So they could see different sound patterns that would light up a person's aura, which corresponds to taking the fast track up. Ancient man believed that the world was built on numbers, and numbers expressed as frequencies. So when they were listening to sound, of course, they'd get right underneath the sound and translate it into numbers. And my gosh, there's many ways to do that. For one, you could count the cycles per second in a second, and that's a numbering system. Like there's 10 cycles per second. And if you have two waves that combine at the same time, and they're both 10 cycles per second, they combine, and now you have a wave that's 20 cycles per second. 10 plus 10 equals 20. There's your math underneath some sound. They also did it with rhythm beats by timing, by how long a piece of music or sound occurred. They did it with harmonics, and we'll have a lesson on that at some time. Harmonics are after ripples of sound. They did it with vowel sounds and all kinds of ways. So, ancient people would play the tonal patterns that lit up a person's aura to give them a big boost upward. And we're going to talk about two different patterns. One is the Fibonacci numbers converted to sound. Think of a big spiral in a seashell, which is the same as the spiral in a galaxy. And it's the same pattern on a cornstalk, on a honeybee hive. There's thousands of these spirals in your body, not quite so obvious, but they're there. And I'm going to give you a little bit of, well, we'll start off with an analogy. If you can remember those old Etch-a-Sketch toys, for those of you young, you probably don't remember them, but they were a little box, and they had two knobs. And one knob you could draw by making a curve, and the other knob, if you turned it, you made a straight line. And the object of the toy was to draw pictures on the box, which is two dials, a curve and a straight line. So today we're going to talk about the sound patterns that create the curve and the sound patterns that create the straight line. Right now, we're going to talk about the sound patterns that create the curve. And this is from the Fibonacci series of numbers. The Fibonacci series of numbers are a series of numbers when the last two numbers, when added, equal the next number. So like 1, 1, 1 and 1 are 2. And then you take the last two numbers, which are 1 and 2, and they equal 3. And then you take 2 and 3, and they equal 5. And then you take 3 and 5, and they equal 8, etc. And it's called the Fibonacci series of numbers. And what's important is when you take these numbers and you use them like in ancient ways of doing block graphs, they create the spiral, that famous spiral in the seashell, in the galaxy, all over the place. Whomever God is, God loved this number. Okay, and if we're getting closer to God, we love this number too. Okay, so when any two numbers, if you divide them in this Fibonacci series of numbers, you get phi, P-H-I, 1.618, ... It goes on forever. So I want you to think of a seed. And in the seed you have a male and a female vibration component. And in this seed, sound waves combine in close proximity. So you have these two little seeds. And let's say you have a 10, and over here you have 20, and they combine, you get 30. And if they get off sync, then you could, if the high part of the wave combines with the low, then you get subtraction going on. So as these waves combine, as the plant grows, the little seedlets grow, then the frequency changes. But they're still in close proximity, and they're still having wave combinations. So think of the math being easy, and it's growing up straight, and then all of a sudden you combine two numbers, and the result is a irrational number phi, and the math goes on. Mother Earth never rounds off. So here you got this plant growing up, and now it's trying to grow, and it's combining its way, but the math hasn't concluded. And the first Fibonacci number, when you divide the two numbers in the series, is a little bit off phi. It's a little under. And then the plant goes back, and it keeps growing up, and as it grows up, the next Fibonacci is a little over. And as you do your Fibonacci numbers, they never actually really perfectly hit phi. They go a little under, a little over, a little under, a little over. So if you were to imagine this Etch-a-Sketch toy, here we are, little plant, we're growing and growing, and up we come, and then we have a math problem where the Fibonacci, or phi, is the result. We go to the right, to the left, to the right, to the left, and that creates the branching or the spiraling pattern we see in nature. Richard Merrick, who has a free book at interference.com, describes it a little bit differently. He says that when you have two intervals, like on your pianos, two notes played at the same time would be an interval. Sometimes the way the waves combine, they create energy, and sometimes they take away energy. Again, if a high part and a low part of a wave combine at the same time, they kind of cancel each other out or take away energy. If a high point and a high point mix at the same time, then they add and they create energy. So he noted and measured all of the energy within all of the intervals possible, noting that the least possible energy is phi. Whenever two intervals are played and the math resulting or the tone resulting creates phi, all flow stops. And at this point in time, the tone, it becomes weak, and that's where things branch because of this. It's kind of like rebooting, and things multiply and change, and they curve at this time. Okay, back to the Fibonacci. Ancient people felt that the signs of nature, shapes found in nature, were like amulets of God. So they were sacred. Sacred geometry is the name for different shapes, all found in nature. And phi was the biggest one of all because it was just so common. So in all ancient mystery schools, take the Pythagorean, the stars really, the five-pointed star is really important, or any shape with phi. The five-pointed star is like a phi machine. It's got like, I don't know, 30, 40 different ways to create phi within that one simple shape. So it became an association of God with nature. The Catholic Church, in its inception, its very early years, outlawed phi. Now remember that they were trying to create their road to heaven, and their competition, if you will, their partners, their other religions at the same time, would have been the ancient Egyptians, Druids, ancient Sumerians, and they're all into shapes and sounds of nature. And the Catholic Church outlawed it and replaced it with monks singing, and they replaced it with the straight line, but we'll get into that later. Let it suffice to say that there was I don't know if these have ever been repelled, but these have been prohibited tones. In our pianos today, we don't hear the Fibonacci numbers anymore. In ancient times, musical scales were always the Fibonacci series of numbers converted to tones. Now we don't use it for economic reasons, because it's cheaper to modify that mathematical sequence, and then you can play in all different keys rather than like doing a million different pianos, literally. So for economic reasons, the Fibonacci numbers are no longer heard in sound. On my CD, Paint Your Soul, I have beautiful channeled music from heaven, I don't know if you can see that. Certainly given it to me, I think it's some type of cosmic plagiarism, because I hear sounds and then I compose and perform. And in the background, I have a beautiful sweep of the pure Solfeggio and Fibonacci tones. I put them into tuning forks since they can't be heard on our pianos today. And I have like 80 pages of people coming in and telling me beautiful things that happen from listening to this music with those tones. Okay, think if there's anything else I want to say about the Fibonacci numbers other than, you know how good it feels to be in nature. This is nature's song. Okay, on to the Solfeggio tones. This is a second set of numbers that when converted to tones has beautiful blessings and benefits. I'm going to start with this is my book right here. I don't know, can you see? Ancient Sounds, Modern Healing. And it's available on my website, Jill's Wings of Light. And I don't know if you can see this, but this, let me see. Can you see that? This is Carillion photography. Let's see. There you go. Anyway, it's a photograph, 2 photographs of the same lady. And with Carillion photography, you are actually photographing the aura, the subtle energy. And with those 2 photos, you could see one was dark and one had a very brilliant aura. The only difference between, they were taken right in a row. So the lady took the first aura photo that was the dark one. She listened to the Solfeggio tones, and the second photo is all the light in her aura from simply listening to those tones. That's just verifying what I said earlier, that ancient seers could see which sound patterns like make you light up like a Christmas tree, like a saint, and bless you in all ways. And then they would listen to those tones. So that's a little bit of example of those tones. You can find them in the Solfeggios mentioned in Egypt and in ancient writings, but they come up the most recently with Pullio and Horowitz in their book Biological Apocalypse. And they just noted that these tones were encoded in the Bible. I'm looking for my notes here. Yeah, in Numbers chapter 7, 12 to 89. And they found that the Bible was encoded. By the way, the Bible is encoded. Check out Bibal, BIBAL.com, where people are putting the Old Testament to music according to its music codes. The I Ching and the other religious documents were also coded. So in Numbers, one code is in 7, 12 to 89. And it's kind of a silly thing to be in a Bible. It's the story of somebody going shopping and they're spending, I don't know, shekels or something like that. And it says like on day 1, I went to the market and I bought a Twinkie or trinket. On day 2, I went to the market and I bought a ball, that kind of stuff. It's from the words. It's hard to understand why it's in the Bible. Anyway, this is how they came up with this code. If you look on like the first day, I went to the fair and I bought an ice cream cone. Then they took that verse. So let's say it's verse 12. And then they would apply gematria, which is an ancient method of taking all numbers down to root numbers. Because remember, they believed the world was composed of numbers expressed as frequencies. So 12 plus 1 equals 3. And then the next time that they go and buy a bauble at the market, let's say it's verse 18. Well, 1 plus 8 equals 9. Anyway, they do this from verses 12 to 89, and they come up with the first 6 Solfeggio frequencies. And also through ancient manuscripts, they correlate these frequencies to blessings. So we have 396, equating to turning grief to joy, 417 cycles per second, equating to connecting to Source, 528, the cycles per second associated with miracles. It also is the tone they use to reprogram DNA, healthy DNA. 741, no, I forgot, 639, which connects you to your spiritual family. And 741 raises your intuition. And 852 is returned to your spiritual heritage family. And I have these tuning forks. They're on my site. You can check them out. They're to the Solfeggio tones. And I'm going to give you a teeny-weeny lesson on tuning forks. So once you have a tuning fork, okay, you kind of bang it, and it makes a noise. And if you have this note in your aura, then it will sound. Because remember we talked in an earlier video about resonance, where sound travels on the same frequency. So if I have this frequency in my aura, this is going to go beep. But if I have a dark spot, then it's going to drop in volume or stop at all. So if I'm going across my aura and it goes beep, beep, wherever it went silent is where I have a black spot in my aura. And to get rid of that, I just go like this. I mean, pretty simple, pretty simple. So anyway, I have 6 of these solfeggios on my site. And while we're doing tuning forks, I'm going to do this type, just so you know, since we're doing healing with sound. This is called a body tuner. And it's the kind of the emblem of the ancient Egyptian ankhs. Think of a cross with a circle on the top. And they were careful about wearing the ankhs. It wasn't a popular figure or amulet, because they thought of it like a boomerang. Because the sound goes up, comes right back down, and comes back to you. In other words, you sow what you reap. So people were careful to use it, lest they weren't so kind. Anyway, with this type, you kind of bang it, and you don't hear much, because this is right up to the sound. I bet you don't hear it. I feel it, because instead of making a sound, it's coming and it's really vibrating down at the bottom here, see? Okay? Then what you do is you go online, find where the acupressure points are, and you put them, like here's an acupressure point, like if you're getting acupuncture, they would put a needle in right here, and you put the tuning fork right here on the acupressure points, and you clear your subtle meridians. It's like getting acupuncture. How cool is that? Anyway, these are on my site. And I must add also that the number pattern of the solfeggio tones in this Bible is 6 tones, but if you look at the number pattern, it's really 9. And if you actually look a little bit further, it's really 18. And so I have 18 of these in the same CD, Paint Your Soul. That's it. There you go. It's got the solfeggio and the Fibonacci in the background. All 18 of them. In ancient Egypt, they believed that in subtle energy that there was a ka, or you had an etheric double that was exact opposite. So if you're a female, your ka body's a male. If you tend to be happy, then your ka body tends to be unhappy. Exact opposite in every way. I found that by using tuning forks, the ka body for me, I found to go like down into the earth, sometimes anyway, starting at my feet. And if I lay on, or have someone lay on a massage table, I can work on their physical body and their ka body. Oftentimes, I can't get a permanent sound healing with their body, but I do with their ka body, because it's the root. And let's take a quick look at quantum physics. They talk about spooky action at a distance, and they have been able to confirm this. So this is not so much a theory. I believe they've been able to prove. And they've been able to prove on a quantum level. That's a teeny level, but we're talking about subtle energy, which is the same thing. That we're going to use an analogy for this science. Let's say you have a roulette here, and each little thing, it's red, blue, red, blue, red, blue. So when it stops, it either stops on red or a blue color. And let's say it is quantumly entangled with another roulette wheel on the planet Mars. If the one on Earth is spun and it comes up with red, then the one on Mars will be spun and it'll come up with the other color, green. So, and it happens every time. It's just a quantum connection, but that's what we're talking about. So anyway, I have the solfeggio and the reverse solfeggio getting this body and our subtle energy body. Science even suggesting perhaps they're getting close to proving that, and it's also in the ancient Egyptian stuff. So let's summarize. Before I go on, I got a couple more minutes. You can take the solfeggio numbers, put them on in writing, put them on your drinking cups. You could put them in a baggie in your bathtub. You can listen to them. I have the forks. You can sing them. There's many ways to ingest them, but these two sound patterns are ways to light up your aura, and it's the ancient path of taking the fast way up. We also talked about silence, and we talked about the rich potential and incredible blessings we can have by paying attention to sounds inward, where we can go on the quantum level, where energy is more malleable. Then we started it off, of course, with praying and understanding that we don't always truly know what's best for us, although we think we do. And sometimes when we're doing this exercise, we need to open up for the biggest and the best, lest we short ourselves or short those that we are praying for. So, please go to Jill's Wings of Light, sign up for my free MP3s, and also I give a sound healing newsletter if you download the free MP3s on the home page of Jill's Wings of Light. So, I leave you with my blessings and my love, and I'll see you again. Bye-bye.